There we are, and I think we are live. Usually we've got this little red thing, and something anyway. Oh, there you are. We're live. Good morning, everybody. Yes, today is a beautiful morning here in Florida. It is cold. It's probably about, I don't know, 65, 70 degrees, would you say?
Yes, that sounds about right.
It's a bit chilly here. We like it a bit warmer. We're so used to having wonderful, wonderful warm weather. I'm going to wriggle about just for a minute, get myself comfortably settled. We are waiting for Al. We seem to have a little bit of a glitch with Al. Anyway, we're going to there we go. I think that's better. So we're just going to begin, and hopefully Al will join us. So good morning. Al, I think there you are. Good morning.
Can you hear me?
Al?
Can you hear?
No sound. We got no sound. I can't hear you. Anyway, you might be able to see him on your picture now. We're going to carry on. So first of all, I'd like to say hello to my spirit guide, Gregel, who is always by my right side here. We have Cachorro sitting in the middle of the sofa, and we have Carolyn to my right side.
Good morning.
Good morning. And we have Al in Colorado. I can see you, darling, but I cannot hear you. No sound. Do we have sound up here? Is my sound up there?
You must be able. Everybody can hear you because they're all chatting.
Okay, sorry, Al. We can't hear you again.
Okay.
Just.
Oh, Dean says he hears Al.
Well, good for you.
The volume is up on this. I have no idea what is going on. There it is. It's up all the way.
Can you hear me?
If anybody else out there is listening and you can hear Al, can you let me know? Because it must be our computer then.
It's
Not
okay.
quite sure what to do about this.
Somebody said might be your switch,
But we just pressed all your volume switches up. I mean, they're as loud as it can go. And the microphone up here.
Is it on?
No, to mute it, I would press it now. It's
Mute it and then
okay.
unmute. See what happens.
Hello.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
It's fine. I'll listen in. Okay. All right.
everybody can hear Al except for us.
So everyone can hear you, Al, but me. So it must be me. There's no way you can get him on my iPad, is there?
No.
Anyway, here we go. So I can't hear Al, but I'm glad that all the rest of you can. So I wonder if Al can hear me. Can you hear me, Al?
Probably.
Apparently not.
Oh, no. Yes.
Yes. So if I asked you to join in and you could just talk, and then I don't know how
Give
it's
a
going
thumbs
to.
up when you're done talking.
Yeah, give a thumbs up when you're done talking. How does that sound? All right. So let's. I'm just confused as to why this is not working. All right. So let's get focused here. First of all, before we go anywhere, I would like to give a shout out to my darling Jan, who is having a lot of issues right now. And if all of you out there could send Jan lots and lots of healing, and also her husband, if you could just mention Jan in your prayers, because she needs every little bit of help she can get right now. And I would personally appreciate that if you could do that for me. We've had a very sort of interesting and somewhat exciting week in some ways, because we've started classes, we're doing the online courses, but we're also planning, Al and I, we're planning what are we doing, Al? This is so frustrating. We're going to be doing a live session open to everyone. Of course, my students will naturally get a discount because they're participating in all of this anyway, if they'd like to join, but it's not obligatory that they join in this. But we're going to do an online 3 or 4 hours. We're going to start with, I think, probably on a Saturday morning sometime in April. and where I'll be chatting to you. You'll have a chance to ask live questions, and what else? You'll be able to ask live questions, and I'll be giving messages from time to time. There will be a fee. It won't be extortionate by any means, but please keep that in mind, and just because these things work out, I think, really, really well. So it will be pretty much similar to my working with a live audience, and the fee will be it's just be a ticketed event, and you'll be able to get me for a whole at least 3 hours. Al, do you want to say anything about that?
It'll be a virtual.
I've got no idea.
It'll be a virtual.
Okay, we're going to leave it then. Talk about working in the dark. I'm supposed to be psychic. You'd think I'd know what you were saying, or if you were saying anything at all.
I was trying to see if this
what are you laughing at?
Button would do anything.
All right, so oh, you can see Al. All right,
Just because I switched.
okay then. So anyway, psychic or not, it is debatable this morning. For those people out there who think that being psychic means that you know everything, you now know that that is a myth, because we don't know everything by any means, and we are just as much at the mercy of technology as everybody else is. Having said that, though, we can, well, I will tell you that I heard a lovely story about a reporter who was a reporter for a big newspaper, and he went out to interview the Hopi Indians, and he was given very special permission, because it's very rare that they'll allow interviews. And he went out there to wherever it would be, Arizona, I think, and to the Grand Canyon, which is where I think they are. And he got an interview with one of the elders, and he asked, this is several years ago, and he asked one of the elders, so what do you think about the fact that man has devised this rocket and we can now go to the moon? And the elder looked at him and smiled, and he said, why would I need a rocket to travel to the moon when I can so easily do that myself? And I thought that was just a fantastic answer. Obviously, this elder was very used to astral traveling, and he knew how to get to the moon without any little piece of machinery whatsoever. So we are somewhat at the mercy of this machinery, but it is what it is this morning. Shall we have, please, our first question? Now, how are we going to do this? Is Al going to ask the question? I don't think he can it? Because I can't hear you, Al. Like, all right.
All right, Twiggy Leaf
Good morning, Twiggy Leaf.
says, hi guys, I won't be here for the live show, but wanted to pop in my question. Can Rosemary ask Gray Eagle if he has seen a tesseract, a fourth dimensional hypercube? Just curious. Thank you.
I'm getting a complete silence from Grey Eagle, so we're not getting yes and we're not getting a no. Sorry, I don't get an answer of any kind. I should talk about that with him later on and see what's going on. He is talking about the many, many, many millions of things, millions and trillions of things that are out there in the universe, and maybe we didn't pronounce it correctly, or maybe he has no clue what he's laughing at me. Obviously he must know what it is you mean, but he's not making a comment. So Twiggy Leaf, I'm so sorry, but it's not that we want to ignore your question, but I'm afraid there's nothing coming. Got nothing for you. Let's have another question.
Violet.
Oh, hold on 1 second. Al, do you know what that is? Just shake your head. Yes or no?
I do not.
I'm moving on. I'm moving on. Next question.
All right, Violet asks.
Yeah.
Morning. If someone is on your healing list, do you keep them on the list? And what's the purpose of saying, "Dear God, we will to thy will"?
I will to thy will. Oh, yes. All right. We will to thy will.
Would healing take place if God didn't want it to?
That's such a, who is this?
Violet.
Violet. Good morning, Violet. That's such a great question. I love that question. There are many different ways of giving healing, as we all know. There are many different viewpoints on healing. The way that I work and the way that I teach my students is that, you know, healing, as far as I'm concerned, on a greater scale, on a more powerful scale, healing is something that I do with God's will. I can, you know, just holding somebody's hand is giving somebody healing. Sharing your good energy with somebody is giving somebody healing. But when we're talking about giving healing in a spiritual way, which is what we're doing, spiritual healing, then I work with God and that God force, that God energy that is out there in the universe. It's the only way that I know to work. And it's the way that I prefer to work, because I feel that as a mere little human being, I really don't know too much about the energy that's out there. I don't quite know how it works. I mean, I'm in the dark, really, in so many ways. So I'm trusting in God, because that's who I'm trusting in that God force and that God energy, because that's what I'm working with. So when I say, "Dear God, I will to thy will," it basically means that as a healer working with God and in God's light and working with the light of God, which is what I try to do, I have to understand that whatever is going on with the patient, as a little human being, I only see this much of this picture. I'm not privy to all the ins and outs and the whys and the wherefores. I'm not privy to a patient's future, or I'm not privy to what God has got planned for that patient. I'm not privy to that greater force. So I know a lot of healers will say, "Dear God, reduce the tumor. Dear God, give this person, the ability to be able to breathe again." They ask God for specific things that, if a patient, for instance, has emphysema, dear God, help them to breathe more. If a patient has leukemia, dear God, cleanse their blood. Healers do that sort of thing all the time, but I do not. And the way that I give healing is that I understand that I'm just this one little person. It's just this little human being and I really know nothing at all. All I want to do is to be able to, if I'm allowed, if it's possible, to combine my healing energy with that God force, with that universal God force that is out there, and to combine my little piece of energy, to combine it with that God force. And hopefully if we all do that, we can create a bigger and more powerful energy source. But for me to say to God, "Can you take away the tumor?" that's presuming. Everybody works differently. But as far as I am concerned, when I say to God, "Can you take the tumor away, or reduce the tumor, or this or whatever," and I try to dictate what I want for my patient, that is presuming that I know more than God knows, and I certainly don't. So when I say, "Dear God, I will to thy will," it basically means I am giving up my energy, I'm giving up my power, I'm giving it into your hands so that you can use it for whatever you, God, need it for, whatever you deem is necessary, because I, as a little human being, have really no clue of the massive bigger picture that is out there. Sometimes, when healers say, "Dear God, please don't let this person die," we're human, and that's what we desperately want to say. We want to cure the tumor, we want to get rid of we want to do all of those things, but it's a human, that's our humanness, and we're trying to dictate or to force the issue. It's like trying to force the river to go, you know, our way as opposed to the way of the universe. We look upon death and dying and sickness as something that's really horrible. We all do it. I do it. I mean, you know, we've had Kachura being really sick and it's been devastating. But not once in all the time that he's been sick this last 2 or 3 weeks have I said to God, can you just take this away and make him healthy? Because death isn't a punishment. Death is something that is beautiful and pure. Death comes to all of us, and it comes to us in its right time. And if I was to try to dictate or to force my will and what I want, of course I don't want to lose my puppy. Of course, when my daughter was laid in intensive care, wrapped up in bandages, you couldn't see her face or her head or anything. I mean, of course, I was desperate to say, dear God, please save her, please allow, but I didn't do that. Even with my child, I didn't do that because there is this innate inner part of me that knows that God really does know what is best for us all, and I have faith that God will you know, give us what is right. And sometimes when we're asking God, please don't let this person die, what we might as well be saying, and I know this is a weird thing for people to understand, but what we might as well be saying is, dear God, please don't let them have that beautiful and wonderful experience that I know that they're going to have on the point of death. So we don't know. So when I say, dear God, I will to thy will, I am basically giving up my energy to him, or her, or it, whichever. I'm giving up my energy to that God force. I'm giving up my energy to that universal force, that force of light and goodness. And I'm totally trusting and having faith that those powers, that energy, that God force that is out there knows much better what to do with my little bit of energy than I can possibly know, because I can only see this much of the picture. Golly, I feel as if I've been talking forever, but hope you got that.
Albertine has a question.
Morning, Albertine.
Rosemary, ley lines are positive, but radiation in your house is not. You suddenly get tired, no energy. Can the spirit world help in this situation?
Well, yeah, of course, the spirit world can help in all situations. If you've got something like that, you either need to move, and sometimes we can't, or you need to have somebody come in and cleanse it. There's always, you know, I mean, the Native Americans use sage. You can have a priest come in, or whatever it is your faith is. You can have somebody come in and cleanse the house and get rid of that negative energy. Sometimes I call it sending in the big guns. Sometimes we ask Greg Eagle to go into somebody's house and say, can you do something about that negative energy in there? We're talking about natural, we're talking about, you know, the earth, when we talk about ley lines, when you're talking about ley lines, yes, you know, ley lines are, you know, those lines of energy that crisscross all around the globe. And I know that there are people who have actually been able to map out to show us where those ley lines are. Now, years ago, many, many years ago, when they built churches or they built cathedrals, or even when they built their houses, they were very careful about where they built. They would build alongside the cathedrals. Most of the ancient cathedrals in England are built alongside a ley line. Never cross a ley line, because a ley line is an energy force, a power, a line of energy, a force of energy, which, if disrupted, will cause disruptive energy. But so in ancient times, people knew these things, and they knew how to build, and they were very conscious of the earth, and they were very conscious of the power and the energy that not only surrounds the earth, but is imbued into our earth. So they, you know, they built accordingly. They live their lives accordingly. Now somebody has a plot of land, or they have a few acres, and they just put up houses here, there, and everywhere. nobody ever checks where the ley lines are. Nobody ever checks to see, you know, should we run along this and protect the ley lines, or should we just willy-nilly build across them? And part of the confusion that is going on in our world today is that nobody cares to worry about where the ley lines are. So houses and buildings and factories and all sorts of things get built crossing ley lines, blocking ley lines, and it's disrupting the energy of the earth. And that's why we have so many issues, so many problems going on, and a lot of times we have a lot of illness created because a ley line has been disrupted or disturbed. And if you're wondering about, you know, what is a ley line, we don't have time for me to explain. I think I've explained it a little bit. It's like an energy field that crisscrosses around the world, and where ley lines do cross each other, but it's like it's a force of energy, and where they cross there, it's most powerful energy. You spell ley lines Leylines, and go to Google. I mean, that's what Google's for, right? Go to Google and look it up, and you'll see what it is that I'm talking about. But unfortunately, in our modern times, we have all this amazing technology. We send people to the moon, we send them around the, you know, into space and so on. And somehow or another, we've been so busy looking out to see what we can find out there that we haven't looked at the earth to see how we can protect the energy of the earth, which is why that we are always constantly battling. And if somebody, for instance, is in a house where, you know, where there is the ley lines have been disrupted, there are often, you know, reasons you can trace back poor energy or lousy energy or disruptive energy. You can, you know, you can put that down as a cause of why maybe that family is always arguing all the time, or why they're you know, why somebody's sick, why the family's sick, or what have you. You can attribute that very often to the fact that nobody cared and just built all across these ley lines without taking any caution and any thought whatsoever. And we've done our earth a great disservice in that, a great disservice in that. There are ways to combat it, but when I buy a house, I'm very aware of the energy around the house and very aware of the energy within the house. I would never buy a house that did not have, let's say, a good feeling, but as far as I'm concerned, good energy. I would love to hear what Al has to say about that, because I bet, Al, I really bet that you've got a lot to say about that, but we can't hear, well, I can't hear you, so don't say anything at all. If we put you on full, I can see you talking, and then I can see when you've stopped talking. Do you want to do that? Let's try that. Can I do that? Hold on.
Just press on him.
Well, I'm trying my best. I'm looking for that little white button.
Just makes it so everybody else can see him. That's what that does.
Yeah, you won't be.
Ley lines. You talk. I can't hear you. But do you have anything to say about ley lines and building across them? And
I've done a lot of research on it as well, and even if you don't know what they're about, if you can sort of get in tune with that energy and get a feel for the energy, go with your gut and go with your instincts, and that's the best you do. But it really is interesting. A lot of the, like you said, ancient temples and ruins you'll see along those ley lines.
Okay, I didn't say you could have the whole show.
Well, that's it.
I couldn't hear a word you said, but I bet it was interesting. Maybe we'll talk more about ley lines on Everything is Attitude tomorrow, because it can really explain the misuse of ley lines, can really explain why people sometimes have a very negative attitude. All right, let's have another question, shall we?
Lori asks.
Good morning, Lori.
For almost 2 years, I'm aware of someone off to my left and up. I know his name is Sam. Is he my guardian angel? He has brown, wavy hair.
No idea. I'm the clue. Oh, you want me to ask Grey Eagle, don't you? For whatever reason, he is saying nothing this morning. So maybe Laurie will talk about it. I think, well, Laurie's an online student, so maybe that's something you have to wait for. How about that? But yes, all of us have somebody with us, and it's nice that you're able to see or to feel or to sense that person with you. That's an interesting one. I'm sure we'll talk about it more later.
Dean said cold. Laughing lots because
I knew that would get to you. And I said, this is, about 70. You say cold. Is it 50 degrees there or something?
And Nettie would like to know, how's Cachorro doing today?
Oh, I was going to show you him. He had his stitches out yesterday. We had a little conference with our vet because I don't know if you all know this. Have we mentioned this at all?
With the emergency?
Yeah.
I believe so, because you...
Maybe I can't remember if we mentioned it, but Cachorro hemorrhaged everywhere. And I mean everywhere. My bathroom looked like the slasher had been in there. It looked like a murder was committed. I mean, the blood was just awful. I do have photos. I won't post them though because they are so gory. And my carpet is really messed up. So, it is what it is with puppies. It's just such a nice carpet. Anyway, we're still working on trying to get the blood out, and he had massive blood clots, and we had to rush him to a clinic, Blue Pearl Clinic in Sarasota, who I cannot speak highly enough of. Anyway, I went back to my regular vet yesterday, had the stitches out, and all is now well. And thank you very much for asking. I did put a little message up online yesterday, on Facebook yesterday, to say that he's really, really doing well. But thank you very much, Nettie, for asking. You're a darling. Let's have another question.
Rising Spirit.
Good morning, Rising Spirit.
Will my husband's legal issues be done in May and financially favorable? Right.
So Gregor has his hand on my shoulder here. So he's obviously going to say something, which I'm surprised about, really, because we don't usually do this kind of thing. However, there is an issue around this which concerns your husband, because it sounds like just a small thing that is going on, but I'm told it actually, as far as he was concerned, it's a huge thing, and it has caused him a great deal of angst over the last, well, I'd say several months, or even the last couple of years. You are free to comment and to tell me if I'm wrong or if I'm not wrong. Greg is squeezing my shoulder again. And so, I feel that this message is for you, but more so for your husband, because I really feel that he does need to know that his angels are watching and watching over him. You've asked if this situation that you're in be resolved by, when was it, May?
Yes.
Or something. I'm not sure if what I'm talking about here are financial issues specifically, but I think the issues will continue for longer than you would like. And I think that everything in its own good time, let's put it this way, the river, the energy will flow favorably in your favor. But I think that there will be some after stuff going on that perhaps you didn't expect. I don't know if that's made any sense to you or not. Who is it? Rising Star?
Yes.
You're free to comment if you think I'm, whatever, if you don't understand, but you should. Let's have another question.
Marcus asks.
Yeah, I think we've lost Al. I think Al's disappeared on us.
Yep, looks like it.
Well, there's not really much point, is there, in giving. So anyway, but thank you, Al, if you're out there listening to us. Oh, there you are. I thought you disappeared.
My family,
who is
Marcus.
This? Marcus, good morning, Marcus.
My family is in a legal battle over my grandfather's last will and testament. Seems like there's no hope from my mother's side. My grandfather left us
no
with
hope
only
or
trouble.
no help?
Hope.
Uh-huh.
My grandfather left us with only trouble. He was a very difficult man. He was an atheist, and I don't understand why he was such a difficult man. Even after his death, we sit with issues and uncover truths about him that are upsetting. So basically, can Rosemary tell me anything at all about my grandfather? Anything will be helpful. His life is just a deep void of not understanding him.
I think that's such a shame that you have this issue. I would say from what you told me that your grandfather had a great deal of trouble understanding himself, but I feel that he was an extremely stubborn man and wouldn't let anyone in. I feel that was due to hurts from long ago. So you can say that pretty much about anybody who lives their life in the way that your grandfather lived his life. All I'm going to say to you, Marcus, is, you know, don't follow his footsteps. I have a feeling I'm much more concerned about you. Gregor is much more concerned about you, because although you seem to be very open and you do share, there are things inside of you which you hold on to, and you hold on to tightly. And I think those things have to do with some old hurts and old pains. Family, I'm going to be very specific, family hurts and family pains. And if you could just learn to talk about them with people who you trust, let go of the old hurts, because, you know, there is a danger, even though we don't mean to do it. And in fact, we often determine, as I did with my mother, that the one thing I do not want to do is be like my mother, for instance. There is this, you know, sometimes we slip into it. We don't even realize that we're doing it. We slip into it, and we you know, we get caught up in things. So I think that rather than worry too much about your grandfather, because that is past, and I don't think there's going to be a good outcome at all. I think the arguing within the family was created not just by your grandfather, but by many other negative things. If you could just step out of the mold, is what I would suggest. Learn to talk to people, learn to share your hurts and pains. Don't hold on to the hurts and pains of the past, and try to be more open. That will allow you to be more loving and to be more open and loving with those who are close to you, because I think sometimes you do struggle with that, darling. So, you know, break the mold, be different. I broke the mold with my family for sure, and I think you can do that too. And I think that's something that you really need to do. And I would love to hear you reply. So, reply.
Mary has a question.
Good morning, Mary.
Is cremation dishonorable? My mom passed in January and has donated her body to science. Her scheduled cremation date is in April. Does mom have any advice from beyond?
Again, I'm looking to Grey Eagle. You're asking, is cremation dishonorable? So I'm going to, first of all, say that I think the most important thing that we can do for our loved ones when they have passed is to try, if you can, to follow their wishes, whether or not you agree with them. You know, we have choices in life as to how we live our life, and we should therefore have choices in death and what we should do with this body that has been of good use to us all of these years. And I think it's wonderful that your mum has donated all of her organs, or whoever it was. I think it's just a wonderful thing. You know, I think that if you can do that, however you bury the body is certainly not dishonorable, unless you're going to throw it on the rubbish heap, you know, with a shrug of your shoulders and no thought for that person at all. So that's you know, disrespectful. But that's all it is. It's disrespectful, because the body is of no use to anybody anymore, except for those people who are looking for donors for different things. Your body, once you have left your body, it, you know, however you discard it, however you get rid of it. And I know that the church has opinions on this. I know that many people have opinions on this, but I personally will be cremated. I do not, the idea of the worms eating at my lovely little body that has been such a friend to me for all of these years, and, you know, but giving it to the worms, it just seems to be, yeah. And I'm not going, no, I'm not going to do this. I'd rather sort of go up in ashes and scatter the ashes around the rose tree or wherever Samantha would like to put them when it's, that's the time. I think whatever you do and however you bury your loved ones and whatever you feel, or whatever their wish is, or whatever you feel if they didn't make their wishes clear, as long as you do it respectfully and with love and you do it tenderly. Tenderness is something we don't see much of. When you see mothers with newborn babies, you see tenderness, but as the kids get older and the mothers get more frazzled, and then we get into adulthood, tenderness is something that is not something that many people even think about or think of as a requirement. But at the end of our lives, we hope that our loved ones will treat us tenderly and give us a tender send-off and a loving send-off. So no, I don't think it's disrespectful at all. I think it's just another way of disposing of something that we don't use and don't need anymore.
Rosie has a question.
Good morning, Rosie.
Rosie Puppy Love.
Okay then.
It's just a sweet name.
Yeah, it is very sweet.
I just want to say that I love your show. I recently have been very interested in making my family tree. Do you think that our family who has passed before us knows who we are?
Are you actually truly asking me this question? Is this a real question, Rosie? Of course they know who we are. Of course they do. At every birth, our loved ones in the spirit gather. And even if you never met them, they will be watching you. They know you. They watch you. They watch over you. There's a great, great story in one of my books. I can't remember which one it is. I think it's the Eagle and the Rose, where a young man came. His girlfriend had died very tragically, and he wanted to talk. He wanted me to connect with his girlfriend, and his parents knew me. Didn't know me personally, but they knew of me, and they said, "There's only one person you need to go to, and that's me." So off he came to me, and the entire session, which was a long one because he was probably in my house for over 2.5 hours altogether. The entire session was this lovely lady by the name of Martha, and I described her, gave her name. She was wearing a long grey dress, a big wide straw boater hat, and if you don't know what a boater is, it's just a round straw thing. Anyway, she was wearing a boater with a black headband, and in her hand she carried this little book which was too small to be a Bible, and I have no idea what it was, but she kept waving this book around it because it obviously meant a great deal to her. She told me her name was Martha, and she was connected to his mother, and she took over the entire session. Now, this young man did not know Martha, had never heard of Martha, hadn't a clue who Martha was, and was extremely frustrated because, remember, he'd come to talk about his girlfriend, but Martha knew that he'd just got a job wearing a uniform. I think he was in the military, but he just entered the military. She told him all about the house he was renovating. She told him so many details about his life, intimate and small details. And so he couldn't fault the information. Luckily, he taped all of this. He couldn't fault the information, but he was livid because who the heck was Martha? And he didn't want to talk to Martha anyway. And all he wanted to talk to was his girlfriend and so on, and we never heard anything from her at all. And he went home, and his parents were all excited, and how did it go, because they knew that it would go fabulously. And he just was so fed up and miserable, and he said nothing, it was a waste of money, nothing happened, and so on. So his mother, being good old English lady, said, "Come on in, we'll have a cup of tea, let's listen to the tape." And of course, the first thing on the tape was the complete and incredibly detailed description of Martha. And forget what the other stuff that she said, and I described her, and his mother just froze for a minute listening to this, and then she said, "Turn the machine off," and she disappeared. He came back, this young man. We finally did talk to his girlfriend, by the way, and he said his heart was thudding in his chest because he knew that something incredible was going to happen. And she came back with a huge very, very old and really filthy, dusty photograph album. And she's going through, she's flicking through, and he knew what she was looking for. And then all of a sudden she says, there, pointed a finger. And there was a photograph of a very short, little plump, dumpy lady wearing a grey dress and a straw bow with a black band. And she said to him, that's my grandmother. Of course, that would be his great-grandmother. That's my grandmother. Her name was Martha, and she was a spiritualist, and she always used to carry that little book around with her wherever she went. Do they know us? Do they say? Of course they do. They do. They do. Even if you haven't known them, even if they haven't known you, they do. They do. They do. Isn't that exciting? I love my job. Don't you love this? Anyway, let's have another question, shall we?
Marlene asks,
good morning, Marlene.
When people in a strict religion pass, do they keep their prejudicial beliefs, or do they realize we are all one no matter what religion we were on earth?
I think it depends on how stubborn they are. It's just like, you know, here's the thing, whatever your belief, and I know what my beliefs are. I mean, I have a tremendous amount of faith, and a tremendous amount of faith that we don't die. But I am sure that I have some preconceived ideas that are wrong. We're all, you know, none of us is infallible. And whether people come to accept a different way or a broader way or not, sometimes I was at a funeral once a few years ago, and the guy whose funeral it was wasn't, no, sorry, I wasn't at the funeral. There was a funeral years ago. The guy whose funeral it was wasn't at the funeral. He was with me in my study and the two ladies who'd come to see me, who weren't going to the funeral, but because there'd been some family falling out. And he came through to talk to them, and he said, you know, I'm not going there because they're all a bunch of hypocrites. They weren't there for me when I was alive, so I'm not going to be there for them when I'm dead. And he said, I didn't believe in this stuff. And we were laughing, and these two women who were in my study were laughing because he didn't believe in a life after death. But whoops, wait a minute. I have no choice now because here I am. I'm still breathing. I'm still thinking. I'm still living. And what are they over there? Are they angels? Really? Can you imagine? When people don't believe, and all of a sudden it's like, wake up time. It's fun, right? Let's have another question.
Violet has a very interesting question.
Good morning. Oh, we've spoken to Violet.
Yes.
No. Oh, go on then.
What color is love?
Oh, that's easy. That's such an easy answer. You want me to give it to you too, don't you? The color of love is sort of like my grandson would say the color of love is red. So it's hard for me because red is the color of love in our house, because my grandson was desperate for me to knit him a red sweater, and he wears it. He always thinks, you know, Mosey loves me when he wears his red sweater. The color of love is sort of like a deep blush pink, like one of the most beautifully deep pink roses. That is the color of pure love. There you have it, you see. See, you didn't expect a real answer. I don't think you expected me to know that, did you? But I do, because I know all about colors and energy. Let's have another question, shall we?
Laurie had a second question.
Go ahead, Laurie.
Do angels come for animals that have passed too?
Of course. Yes.
Would it be animal angels or people angels? I'm curious on that. So do pets turn into angels, you know, like pet angels? I never thought of it until Laurie asked this question, and now my head's racing.
All right. Okay, I will ask the question of Grey Eagle because I've never actually seen an animal angel. No. No. Let's be clear. Let's be clear. Sorry. Oh my gosh. I have to be serious this morning. Let's be clear. My definition of an angel You do realize that this is a very serious show, don't you? That everything we talk about is serious, but goodness me, we have so much fun. And, you know, in our work, we do laugh a lot, don't we?
Yes, we do.
We do laugh a lot in here about some of the weirdest things. But anyway, an angel is a being of light. I can't look at Greg because he's just looking at me like I've got two heads. Who asked this question? You
Laurie.
did.
Well,
No,
Laurie started it.
Laurie, you had a reasonable question. It's Carolyn who went off the deep end. So, oh golly. Yes. Laurie, the answer to your question, I'm going to ignore Carolyn now altogether. The answer to your question is that yes, when my puppy Rosie passed at the very, very end, I wasn't physically present, but I was able to see her angels come for her. And when I left her, the last time I left her, as she looked at me, there was no doubt about it that she was saying goodbye to me, because she absolutely knew that. And within a couple of days of my leaving, I had to travel for work, and within a couple of days of my leaving, she left us. But I see her often. Gosh, she was a fantastic animal. That little puppy was beautiful. She was gorgeous, and the most loyal and fiercely loyal. I mean, fiercely, fiercely loyal. I could tell you some stories about that puppy. Yeah.
Denise asks,
Good morning, Denise.
I was told that it is wrong to pray for the souls of the dead. This has created a problem for me. I pray for those who have died a lot. Do prayers for the dead help, or are they useless?
I don't know who told you that. You know, it amazes me sometimes how people are so definite and determined in their views that can be so wrong. And you know, maybe I'm one of those people. I don't know. I'm very, very careful and very cautious before I actually will, you know, say anything to anyone, even on this show. I'm very cautious about answering questions. One thing I can tell you, I don't know who it was who told you that it was wrong to pray for the dead, but that person should be shot. Oops, I'm not supposed to say that, am I? Well, not physically, metaphorically. What on earth do they know? Our prayers are thoughts, simply our thoughts. Prayers are simply our loving thoughts. Prayers are our thoughts, whether we combine those thoughts with God and that God force, or whether we just say our own silent, small, inner spiritual thoughts, which we send out there to whoever it is we're sending it out there to. They are simply thoughts. And prayers, I like to think, are those beautiful, loving, pure thoughts, pure, tiny pulses of energy that go out into the universe and that reach their target. And if you're sending out prayers, loving thoughts, all a prayer is, that's all it is, I have to say. All a prayer, it's like, you know, people talk about God. Well, God is, you know, God is only dog spelled backwards. God is what you feel that it is within your heart. I feel that God is that great force of energy, that universal God force, that force of light, that force of goodness. I don't see God as a man on a throne with a white beard, and some people will think that that is blasphemous of me to say that. I don't feel that it's blasphemous, because that is how I feel, and that is where my faith lies. Thoughts are living things, tiny pulses of energy which go out into the universe. Negative thoughts go out there. They reach their target, whether it's a person or whether it's a situation, but our thoughts always come back to us. It's like a boomerang effect. The same with our prayers. When we send them out, our prayers are usually good thoughts, powerful thoughts, thoughts that have a power of love behind them and a power of caring behind them. And for anyone to say that it's wrong to have those thoughts, you know, I'm sorry, but don't do that to yourself. Don't go there. You know perfectly well in your heart, in your mind, in your soul, you know perfectly well, we all do, that when we say a prayer, we hope someone who has passed is happy. We hope that you're settled. We hope that you're with your angels. Whatever your prayer is to them, it's a positive and a loving prayer. There's absolutely nothing to condemn about anything of that nature whatsoever. And in fact, more so, those loving and caring prayers go out and they reach their target. So if you're sending a prayer to your mother, your father, whoever it is that you've lost out there, it's almost like they're going to reach out and grab it and hold it to them, because that's part of your loving energy that you are giving to them. And it's a gift to them. And then it boomerangs back to you and it becomes even a greater gift to you. So please, all of you out there, keep sending out your prayers, your thoughts, whatever it is you want to call them, loving, kind, tender thoughts.
Teresa asks,
good morning, Teresa.
Do our loved ones in heaven interact with God?
All the time. Okay, let me just say again, though, I personally, it's my own personal belief. It doesn't have to be yours. I'll still love you. I'll still like you. I'll still talk to you. Everybody has their own beliefs and their own belief system, and every one of us should respect other people's belief systems. As far as I'm concerned, God, I do not see God as a man on a throne with a white beard and flowing robes and all of that as all wise and all knowing. I see God more as a powerful, bright, beautiful, positive, loving energy that is out there in the universe that creates and swirls around us and mingles with us and intermingles with us. So of course, you know, it follows that when we go to God, when we go into that God force, when we are embraced by the light of God, it stands to reason that we are interacting immediately, and our angels will come for us, and angels are purely messengers of God, of that God force. I have seen angels, and I have seen angels as beings of light, some with wings, some without, always incredibly beautiful, but it's almost like backlit with this incredible, beautiful light. Do we have any comments going on here?
Well, Denise says, my prayer is always surround our spirits with your perfect love and perfect peace. They said it's in the Bible. And then she said, so for the first time in weeks, I've said the prayer again. Thank you, Rosemary. I so appreciate your
answer. You keep going every day, darling. Don't ever be afraid to say that prayer. It is not harmful. And in fact, it's way beyond harmful. It's way beyond positive and beautiful. And you're just sharing your loving thoughts with your loved ones in the spirit world. That is what we all should do on a daily basis. Do not ever be afraid to do that, my lovely. And whoever it was who told you that doesn't know a thing, in my opinion, of course, whatever my opinion's worth, doesn't know what they're talking about. And they also don't have any love. Where is the love in their hearts to tell you such a thing? So anyway, not saying anymore.
Terry had a comment about that
good morning,
as well.
Terry.
When I used to go to church, I was told to always pray for them, the people that have passed, as that would help them until the day they are judged. I still pray for them, but I don't believe we are at rest until Judgment Day.
Oh, we're getting into a tricky subject here. I do not believe that God sits in judgment of us. Oh, yes, I know. Wow. Stand back. What is she talking about? I believe that those who judge us are ourselves. We go to God and we stand in the light where we see ourselves as we really are. Our life passes before us. Our actions, our interactions with other people, the loving and the not such loving. We see what we did. We see the effect that we had on other people, good or bad, and we stand in judgment of ourselves. We are our harshest critics. We are our harshest judges. So when we see who we have been, what we have been, and how we have affected other people, that is the judgment. I do not believe there is a judgment day when all of a sudden all the angels are going to rise up and blow the trumpets and all the rest of it, and Gabriel will welcome us all to God. That is not my belief. And people that I talk to in the spirit world, and Gregor has put his hand on my shoulder, even confirming that. I think that is just a myth, that the church, that in certain churches and certain religious beliefs were formed where the church wanted to control and have control over their flock, over their congregation. And I think that, the hellfire and damnation stuff, and the, God will judge you stuff, excuse me 1 second, all of that, sorry about that, all of that was a way of the church controlling you with fear. And I do not believe that God wants to control us with fear. I think God is a loving and a gentle and a beautiful entity, and who welcomes us into his arms. So I do not believe that we're all going to lie around waiting for Judgment Day. I think that on the day that we pass, on the moment that we pass and we go to the light, our eyes are open to the kind of person we are, to the learning that we had, to how much we valued our lives, what we did with our lives. But I think we are our own judge, and anyone who is fearful of Judgment Day, please, don't go there. Don't do that to yourself, because, just try and live your life the best way you can. Remember that God knows that we are human, and in our human frailties, he's not going to sort of bring down the axe and say, look, you were mean several times this month, so you get penance for that. He's not going to do that. We are human. He sent us here knowing that we're human and knowing that we are going to fail again and again and again, which we will do. He loves us anyway, so that's what I think. Sorry, go.
Probably our last question here.
Okay.
Twiggy Leaf.
Good morning.
She was able to join us at the end.
Oh, lovely.
Do our angels stay with us in heaven, or do they get assigned to a new job after they deliver us to heaven?
Well, angels are not necessarily, how can I put this? Angels are not ours. They're not ours to keep. They're not ours to dictate. To them, they are beings of God, for God, purely for God, and will do God's will. So if God determines that we need an angel for a few weeks, that's what we get. If God determines, hey, you're on your own, kid, that's what we get. But so our angels do God's will. They do not do our will. They are not interested in what we want. They're only interested in what God deems is right for us, and which is what is necessary for us and for our growth. And they bring us to this earth, and they return us back to God. And they do as God wills, as God decides. However, we do have our loved ones in the spirit world. We have our families. We have our friends who have passed before us. And every one of us has some special someone in the spirit world who watches over us. My daddy does that, absolutely, I know. And my spirit guide, Gregor, does that. And I've got a few friends up there as well, and some of my patients, I must remember. And gosh, Wendy even, my goodness, that's a long time ago. So, we all have people in the spirit world who want to say hello to us from time to time and who want to watch over us. Yes.
I just feel that one quick question that's important came into Roxanne. My son
Good morning, Roxanne.
My son passed away 11/11/17. Is my grief interfering with his soul growth?
Oh, you are lovely. What a beautiful question. You're obviously so concerned about him, much more concerned about him than you are your own self. I'm listening to Grey Eagle here because I feel that you need a message of some kind. First of all, it's not even been a year, has it? Or has it? Just over a year. Don't be hard on yourself. You grieve as much as you want. You cry as much as you want, as long as you find the time to smile as well. Nobody can say how long a person's grief should last. And quite frankly, you're always going to be grieving for your son. You're never going to get over it, darling. You'll learn how to deal with it, but you will never get over the loss of a child because nobody can. I feel that your son, I'm getting it sort of a little bit of a confusion here. So I'm going to say this, and I hope you'll respond and let me know if I don't want to confuse you. But I feel that his passing was in some ways quite sudden, and yet there were lots of issues prior to his passing. So it's almost as if he had a lot of issues and a lot of problems, but at the end he went, I feel, very easily. A very, very sensitive child, boy, maybe, you're not interfering with his growth at all. You grieve just how you want to grieve. You grieve as much and as long as you want to, as long as you find a little sunshine and you find a little light through your day as well. Because every time you look for the sunshine and every time you look for things to smile and every time you remember him and find those things there are to smile about with him and for him, every time you remember the times that you laughed, every time you remember the times that you held him when he was a baby, all of those things, they'll make you cry, but some of them will make you laugh, and that laughter and that light will help you to deal with your grief. It really will. I think he's fine. I think he's safe. I think he's doing really, really well. And I think you're such a loving mother. And I know that you have lots of regrets. Don't. You did the very, very best you could. And you're a beautiful, beautiful person for even asking this question. So grieve for as long as you like. Don't indulge in it. Don't get so far and so deep down in your own, misery that you can't climb out, which is why I'm saying to you, focus if you can, as much as you can, on the good things and the wonderful things and the things that happened between you that were just lovely. And that will help you with your grief. I don't know if she has anything to say to that or wants to add anything to that.
Nothing's come up. We are about a minute delay, so.
Okay, so all right, so if you could just watch for that. There are a couple of people I suggested might want to mention something. So while I'm sort of winding up, if you'd like to say something about that or not, it's up to you. We are live tomorrow evening, live with Al. I'm hoping they're going to hear you tomorrow. Hope I'm not going to be talking to myself. Al and I will be doing our Everything is Attitude show, 6 o'clock Standard Eastern Time. Al is in Colorado, so that's 4 o'clock his time. And I'm not sure if we have a guest, but I know we've got a lot of subjects that we talked about today that we might want to talk about. Ley lines, for one thing, is a very interesting topic. So we may talk about that. So keep watching. How do you get into the Everything is Attitude show?
It's on Facebook.
It's on Facebook.
It's on your healing page.
I should have known that, shouldn't I? It's on the healing page of my Facebook, and if you go in there, if you want to see previous shows, you can go to YouTube and watch, or you can go to Facebook and see, because we record these shows for you to watch, and they are a lot of fun. Al was at a skating rink last week, and aside from the fact that it was cold and he kept losing the internet service from time to time, we still had a great show. I loved that show. It was very sort of very off the cuff kind of thing. So we will be Everything is Attitude tomorrow night at 6 o'clock Standard Eastern Time. Tonight I will be with my students 9 o'clock. If you are a student and you can't make it live, of course, it's all recorded, so you know that too. And remember what I said, we are going to be doing some morning, maybe 3 or 4 hour shows, and we'll let you know more about that. We're planning to do one in April. I know April's next week, so it will be the end of April. we'll see how quickly we can get it going. We'll let you know about that as soon as we can, and that will be open to anybody and everybody. You will come on. It'll be like a live audience. There'll be me interacting with the audience. We'll be taking questions. I'm probably going to, not making any promises, but probably going to be giving messages. Greg and I will be there with you, and that should be a fun show as well. So we'll let you know more about that very, very soon. Do we have any comments?
Roxanne just said, thank you so much. Yes, he had many issues physically and emotionally. Your words are comforting. I am so shy. I am surprised I was able to reach out.
Oh, sweetheart, don't be shy. We'll take anybody on this show, whether you're shy or whether whether you're one of those pushy kinds. We'll take you all because we love you all. And Roxanne, I'm so, so happy that you were able to be comforted by your son. And please know that he loves you and that he's with you. Apparently always, according to Grey Eagle, according to some bright shiny eyes that I can see just off in the distance, and I'm going to leave you all with that. So love from your son, Roxanne. He loves you very, very much, and love to all of you. I'm sorry, Al, that we couldn't hear you, but so you're very nice to sit there and say nothing, though. That was lovely. I've no idea what's wrong, whether it's your computer, my computer, whatever it is that's going on here. We'll try and get it fixed for tomorrow night. Until then, people do want to know, I'm sorry prolonging it, people do want to know where to buy the books. A Walk in the Clouds is the newest, the latest one. You can email us, rosemary@rosemaryaLtea.com, or you can go to lulu.com. And if you go to lulu.com, you do lulu.com/Rosemary Altea, and it will take you to all the books that we have on Lulu. Yes, including the cookbook. And next week, Carol and I were talking, we're going to do 1 or 2 more kitchen shows. Watch for that. We're still deciding. Easter's coming, so maybe we'll do something with chocolate. Ooh, what about that? Or something anyway. You never know what we're going to come up with, but we'll be doing a couple of things next week with the cooking show. So until I see you again next week, wherever it is that I see you, please, 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 in the meantime, have a very, very, very blessed day. I've got to find that little arrow. There it is. There it is. And thank you, Al. Thank you, Carolyn. And thank you to my darling Kachuro. And of course, naturally, beyond and above everything else, thank you to Grey Eagle. And thank you for all of you who are watching. Oh, I miss it.